you. It was the hottest day of my life. I don't remember ever being hotter than I was on September the 17th, 1982. Some of you were not born. It's hard for me to admit this. I was driving. I had to get out of the car. I stopped at my mother-in-law's home, and I proceeded to have what I would call a meltdown. Complete, total, mental, emotional meltdown. I could see no reason and how my life could go on. It started when I was about 11 years old. I made myself a promise that when I grew up, I was going to be rich. Now, I wasn't just going to have a little bit of money. I was going to be insanely wealthy. And so I planned my life. I used the Sears catalog as my planning tool. I went through it. I made lists. I picked out my husband in the men's department. I had the cutest children you can ever imagine. They were well-dressed. Our home was furnished beyond belief. We had a picket fence and a riding lawnmower, which when I was little, you could buy those things from the Sears catalog. And so I proceeded to plan my life. When I was turned 18, graduated from high school, my parents allowed me to go to school, away from home, to go to college. They showed me on the map 5 different schools I could choose from. And I took the one that was farthest from home. You can see I really wanted to get away. I ended up in Southern California. You probably think, whoa, boy, she's going to be surprised. I was surprised about how awesome it was. I loved it. I loved the beach. I loved the palm trees. I loved the smog. I thought it was the best smelling thing I'd ever smelled in my life. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. I'm from Spokane, Washington. I got to school. Of course, my life was to begin now because for, 7 years I'd been making my plans. I was paired with a roommate who was everything I wanted to be. She was 5'10". She had a brand new car. She had money, I guess, because she could shop like you never could believe. She took me to my very, very first shopping mall. I had lived a very, very sheltered life. I thought that I had died and gone to heaven. I had no money. Back then, there were no credit cards. I mean, what do you do when you have no money and no credit cards? Oh, you get a checking account. I had done that. The school had told us that we needed to go into town and get a checking account. That was the sum total of my financial training. And I got it. I didn't know exactly how to use it. But as I stood there in the middle of that store, I wanted to buy something so bad. Oh, I just couldn't stand it. Wanted to be like my roommate. She was buying everything imaginable. She had bags. She knew how to carry them properly, and she just kind of flitted through the store. And it was just absolutely fabulous. And so I had that moment, that little good girl, bad girl moment. Any of you? No, I know you've never had this. One said, who would know if I wrote a check for more than I have in the bank, which was probably about $4.12. Who would know? And then the good girl says, well, that would be dishonest. It would be illegal. You certainly couldn't do that. And the bad girl goes, well, who would know? You've got your campus paycheck coming tomorrow. You could get it to the bank in time before anybody ever thought like this. So I did it. I did the bad girl thing. I wrote out the check. I have no idea what I bought, but that day is forever seared in my memory. I wish that it would not have worked, but it did. The lady didn't call the cops. She didn't call the bank to see if I really had the money. In fact, you're not going to believe what she did. She thanked me for shopping and invited me to come back again. I couldn't believe how wonderful this was. Of course, I'm not ever going to do it again until the next time and the next. Because you see what happened to me that day. Something started to grow inside of me that said it was okay to now and pay for them later if I could get away with it. I was to go on and do that over and over and over again. Always promising myself that I would never do it again. The pressure was intense. Now get this, I didn't have to pay any interest. This was back before all that kind of thing started. I had to deal with the phone calls. I'd get that one call, just when everybody was in the dorm, one phone in the dorm and out in the hall, and someone would yell, Mary Hunt, it's some bank or some retailer on the phone for you. Because every now and again I messed up. I didn't get the money into the bank in time. This was to go on for 3.5 years of school. Yeah, I graduated in 3.5 years. Can you believe it, guys? I did it. But I left there having something terrible going on in my heart. You see, I never ever thought that I was under deposit. I never thought I was overdrawn. I always thought I was just under deposited. See, it was never my fault. It was that I didn't have enough money. And of course, this was going to happen when I married this rich man, right? Girls? I did. I married a banker. I married a banker. Did we ever talk about my little problem? No. I would never talk to him about that. It was a secret. It was never going to happen again as long as I lived. Now that I was a wealthy woman, why would I ever write checks for more money that was in the bank? Why would I ever dream of having things now and paying for them later? This happened with my new life. I would have a man to give me the money and also to fix the car, the two things I hated most, being out of money and having car trouble. And so I walked down the aisle and I married my husband. About 10, maybe 15 minutes later, I said to him, honey, I need a credit card. He said, no. He's very concerned. He said, no, that was absolutely not necessary. I worked on him. I got my credit card. That thing that had started to grow inside of me when I was in college kept growing. It had lied dormant maybe for a few days, but it was still there. I can't get out of my mind the day that the first statement came for the credit card. My husband couldn't believe I'd actually used it because I had promised him it for emergencies, right? Isn't that what we do? Get a credit card just in case of emergencies. He gets the bill and he just couldn't believe it. Now, I could say he was just very kind and sweet and gentle. No, he was not. It was an ugly scene. And I felt terrible. I should never have done it. I'll never do it again. I promised him I would never do it again. Just like I promised myself in school that I would never do that checking thing again. But I have to try and explain to you the euphoria, the rush that would come over me when I could have things now and somehow get them without paying for them was so strong. It was so powerful. It would control my life so much that joy exceeded the pain I would have to endure when he found out. Now, I don't know if you can understand that. Some of you psychology students are going, whoa, we need to do a case study on her. But it's the truth, and I'll admit it to you now. I went on to start collecting credit cards. They would come in the mail. We didn't even have to ask for them back then before certain laws went into effect. I started collecting them almost like baseball cards just to see how many I could get, because the more I had, the more it said about my character to me, that I was trustworthy, that I could afford this, that I was wealthy, and it would send me into this place of euphoria, being that person that I'd always dreamed of as a child. Well, you all know a house of cards cannot build forever. It will finally fall. And after 12 years, that is what happened. We had 2 little boys, had refinanced our home so many times, had eaten up all the equity. My husband had done so many things to try to get me to stop. And it was on that day that everything came to a grinding stop. There was no more credit. My husband had left the bank on my behest. I told him he'd never make enough money in the bank. He had to get self-employed. He had to do something that would give us enough money to carry this lifestyle that I had created for us. And now it was gone. Our home was in foreclosure. I'd never heard of that word before. It's quite a few years ago. He had no job. We had no unemployment. So we had nothing. We had nothing in the bank. Nothing. Nothing in our pocket. We had no money. Do you hear me? Nothing. And debt up the wazoo. He didn't know how much debt we had. I didn't know. Much of it was secret. I had a secret post office box where I was getting all the statements, thinking somehow, I don't know, I'd be able to come up with the money to pay these off. And now it had all come crashing down. As I lay there on the floor, I have to tell you that for the first time in my life, I realized it wasn't him. It wasn't my bum luck for having been born into a family that didn't have any money. It wasn't that I didn't have rich grandparents. It's not that I didn't win the lottery. It's not any of those things. It was me. It was sin. It was a horrible thing that lay inside of me. And I needed to take care of this. And you're probably going to think, oh, she's going to have an encounter with the Lord. And I did. But guess what? I had before. My husband and I were church pillars. We were leaders in our church. He led the finance committee. I mean, we looked fantastic. We had fabulous cars. Our kids wore the best clothes. It was a sham. It was a big, phony, horrible sham. And now it had all come to a screeching end. But God, always there, ready to forgive. I grew up in a pastor's family. I had learned thousands of Bible verses to go to camp every year. I'm sure there's some PKs out here. All of that had got stuck in my head. It had never invaded my life until that day. I asked God to forgive me. I made a promise that I would do anything to go on, to pay back the debt, whatever it took. Now, kids, let me tell you what happened. It took me 12 years. Listen, 12 years we juggled this thing. 12 long years to run up more than $100,000 in credit card debt. Translated into today's terms, I don't know what would it be, but 1982 dollars are a lot different than they are now in 2014. That's how far it went. And you know what? God brought the opportunities. He did not hand me the money to pay it off. I worked so hard, can't believe, for 13 years. Worked so hard. My husband with me. What a gem. Our marriage has lasted 44 years. We've been married now. And I tell you something, from that day until now, my life has completely changed. I never dreamed in a million years during the first 10 years of payback that anyone would find out. It was so embarrassing. No one knew, not even our families, what we had been through. I mean, they knew that we had lost a business, that we had started, that kind of thing, but they did not know the depths to which this had gone. But after 10 years of this, I decided to write a little newsletter. This is the craziest thing ever. I'll tell you the whole story next time I come. It's a long story. Listen, I was a music major. I didn't know how to write, but I needed to raise a little bit more money to pay off this debt. And so I started writing this little newsletter called Cheapskate Monthly. I shared with people that I had learned how to really stretch a dollar, and boy, did I ever. Taught myself to be so frugal, you can't believe it. We had to pay back this debt. And that little newsletter started to grow. And you're never going to believe it. After only 4 months, the Los Angeles Times called and did this gigantic story. That doesn't happen. You marketing majors, they don't usually call you. You have to call. Oprah Winfrey called. Dr. Dobson called. Dr. Phil called later when his show started going. This thing hit the media. Did I do that? No. God decided to do this. That was God's way of meeting my needs. And it's been more than 22 years now. That thing is still going. It's been changed to debt-proof living. For 22 years, I have had the most awesome opportunity to lead people out of debt. Yes, I have. Isn't that crazy, me? I have had to learn, and I have learned so much about financial literacy, about personal finance management, how to manage a paycheck, all of those things that I never learned. No one taught me this. I learned tons of Bible verses, but I did not learn how to balance a checkbook. I didn't even know you were supposed to do that. I didn't think I was smart enough to do that. Boy, have I learned differently. I also learned that I can write. Who knew? I had no idea. It reminds me of Charles Schultz, what he said once. He said that we're all like a 10-speed bike. We've got gears we have never even tried. And this was inside of it. To this date, I've written 23 books. Can you believe this? I can't believe it. It's the most amazing thing ever. And so here I stand before you today, having spent all these years repairing adults who messed up, like me, got into financial trouble, and I helped them work their way out so that they're back, getting out of debt, learning to live below their means, saving for the future, giving back to the Lord. And now I'm being presented with a new opportunity. And you're it. You ready? I want to start preparing young people so we don't have to repair them when they've made all those mistakes. Now's the time to get started. You know, it's been a long time since that happened to me, but it's as fresh in my mind as it might have happened just yesterday. And I have to promise you, talk about Throwback Thursday. It's for me today. Being here with you is just bringing back all those memories of being in school. I went to what is now called the Master's College. I don't know if you've heard it. Small Christian college. Isn't that where we all go? I'm grateful for that time that I had there. I'm grateful that my life that God has been able to redeem. And believe me, kids, he can redeem anything. God of the universe, who owns everything. He cares so much about you. But he is not going to force it. He's going to wait until you come to him. Now, I could very, very easily spend the rest of my life regretting what I did, regretting why can't I go back? And I mean, part of me does wish I was back where you are. I'm not regretting, though, because I made a decision. I refuse to regret. I'm not going to waste one bit of energy on the past. I'm going to learn from it and go on. And so in getting ready for today to speak to you, I came up with 7 things, not regretting, but instead 7 things I just wish I would have known sooner. And I hope that maybe you can benefit from some of these things. I'm going to share my heart. I wish that I would have known sooner that money is important to God. I did not know that. I didn't know that God really knows about my needs. But more than that, he cares about my wants. I didn't know that. I thought I had to take care of that. I thought MasterCard and Visa were the answer to my emergencies. I never went to the Lord. Even though I knew him, I did not know him on an intimate basis. I did not know these things. You know, Jesus said more about money than any other single thing in the Bible save for love, including faith, prayer, all of those things together. There are 2,350 references to money, stewardship in the Bible. That is amazing. It just shows us how important it is to God. Money is the exact index to our true character. How you handle money says so much about your character, what you believe, who you are. You know, you've probably heard it said, hand me your credit card statement or your bank statement, and I know an awful lot about you. The same would go true for you if you saw mine. You would see what really, really matters to us. More than that, we talked about this last night, credit report. Now that really, really tells you what you think about money. Psalms 37:4 says, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Now, I know some of you are thinking, you know, if I learn how to budget, or if I learn how to do this, I'm never going to have anything nice. I will never have anything I want. And I want what I want, and I want it now. Well, guess what? God wants you to have it. He says, I will give you the delights of your heart. Trust in me. Delight yourself in me. And I'll tell you already what happens. He changes that heart. Those things that you crave may not be the things that you delight in once you have put him at the very, very center of your finances. The second thing I wish that I would have known sooner. More money will not fix everything. I have to keep learning this. My natural self wishes, if I just had enough money, if I just got more money, if I could just make another deal, if I could just win the lottery. No, I don't really play the lottery, but some of you are thinking this. I know you are. You know, if great Uncle Harold would just die, I could get an inheritance. If I could just get more money. Let me tell you what will happen if you get more money. It'll just be a bigger mess than you have now. Whatever your situation is right now, more money is going to enhance it. It's just going to make it bigger. So if you're behind in your bills, if you never have enough to pay, if you're always running away from your creditors, it's just going to be that times 1,000, okay? But if you are managing your money well, according to God's principles, more money means that you're going to be managing more money well. And that's exactly how it works. And let me promise you something. God is looking for people he can trust. I so believe that. He is looking for people he can trust to manage his resources. The Bible is full of references to this. I've seen this happen. I'm telling you, once you turn loose of control, you cannot imagine the wonderful things that are going to happen in your life. That's another story I'll tell you, all the things that God has done in my husband and my life since we have made this change. Remember, the thing is that you need to have a plan for how you're going to manage money. We talked about this last night. I missed some of you. Those who were there, we had a fabulous time. So I want to talk now about the third thing that I wish that I would have known sooner. I wish I would have known that integrity always matters. I've struggled with this. I can tell a tale you can't believe. I guess I grew up this way. Integrity is simply doing what you promised that you would do. It is telling the truth and doing the truth. It's doing the right thing even if no one would know you did the wrong thing. Integrity is accepting blame when you've made a mistake. It keeps you the kind of person that you want to live with. And you know what? It's really important to be the kind of person you want to live with, because you're going to be living with yourself all of your life. Integrity matters. You know, fudging the truth to your spouse, lying to your boyfriend, your girlfriend. You know, telling Visa you already sent the check when you really didn't. I could go on and on and on with all the things and the ways that we can lie about money. You know, it's terrible. I wish I would have known sooner how much that affected my life. Another thing I wish that I would have known sooner is that it's so much easier to borrow than to repay. If you learn nothing else from our time together today, let me tell you this. It is so much harder to earn money that you've already spent. Just remember that. Next time you want to, get that thing, Amazon.com or whatever, you don't have the money, you're going to put it on the credit card. What makes you think you're going to have the money next month? Or the next month? Or the next? I know you. I wish I would have known that sooner. The next thing I wish that I would have known sooner is the antidote for fear and greed. Am I the only one who fears and worries about running out of money? Am I the only one who has a problem with greed, wanting to have it all now, even if I don't have the money to pay for it? Let me tell you the antidotes. Saving money is the best antidote in the world for fear. Because remember, fear does not come from God. Fear comes from someplace else. And, we need to banish that from our lives. You need to start saving money. You need to have some money put away. I don't know if it's in your underwear drawer or if it's in a bank or where it is, but you need to constantly be putting some amount of money away. Even a small amount. You need to do this. It'll change your heart. You need to give. I loved the theme today about gratitude. It's so true. But you can say you're grateful all you want. But you know how you prove your gratitude? By giving. That's how you worship God, through giving. I want to challenge you today. The next time, it might be today, it might be a week from now, that you go to purchase and pay for something that you want. Okay? It might just be a cup of coffee, whatever it is. I want to challenge you to not buy it. Deny yourself. Take that money instead, and I want you to give it away. Give it to someone who is in need. Give it secretly. Give it anonymously. Even if it's $1, do it. You can't believe what this will do for your heart. It'll take that greed thing away. It'll bring a kind of joy like you possibly have never, ever known. And saving is absolutely as important. And I think it's very, very, honoring to the Lord that we not spend all that we have. And I'll tell you, money in the bank changes everything. It does. It changes the way you feel, the way you think, the things that you do. It calms your soul. It helps your blood pressure to go down. It really does. The next thing I wish that I would have learned sooner, but boy, have I learned it by now in spades. Financial literacy is taught. It is not caught. You just can't hang around, people who are smart with money. Expect smart too. Just because your parents are fabulous with finances and have done so well, you're not going to catch that like you would catch a virus. You won't. I promise you won't. In the same way that you were not born knowing how to read. You had to learn. You have intelligence, but you have to develop it. You need to become financially literate. You need to do that in any way that you can. That's what I love to do, is to teach financial literacy. If you don't know how to do it, if you don't know what to do, see me before you leave. I have some cards with my email address on them. I would love to hear from you. I have taught financial literacy to my children. It's the easiest thing in the world. It's first grade level, kids. It's not big, hairy university level economics and finance at all. But you've got to learn it. You've got to develop your financial intelligence. That is the foundation for everything you do. Everything you're learning, all of your degrees, all of your aspirations you're learning here could blow up when you get to the other side if you don't know how to manage money. That's how important it is. The last thing I want to tell you that I wish that I would have known sooner. A plan that is not written down is only a dream. Oh, you cannot believe how many times I planned to get out of debt. I planned to do better with money. I planned to do this. I planned to start saving. I planned to start giving. I planned. I never wrote it down. I had this mental plan that was like, woo, it was just a dream. You can plan all you want, but written down so that you can see it. Then it becomes a plan with a goal. I challenge you to do that. You have so much of your life ahead of you. I beg you, don't blow it off. Don't do what I did. I took 12 years to make the maths and 13 years to get back to point zero. 25 years of my life. I read about a study that was done at Stanford University in the medical school of all things. They wanted to find out how their students learn best, from their own failures or from someone else's failures. It is a fascinating study, and I would be glad to send you the link to it so you could read it yourself. You know what the conclusion is? And it wasn't just maybe or might. No. They came out with what they believe is hard evidence. We learn best from other people's failures, but from our own success. Okay? I'll make you a deal. I've made all the mistakes that could possibly be made. I have failed every way you can imagine with finances. I've done it all. Please learn from my mistakes. I offer myself up to you. Let's stay in touch. I would really, really like to help you avoid a lot of the things. And as we close today, I know summer's almost here. I can feel spring in the air. It's fabulous. I know that you're planning your summer. I hope you will take every advantage of it. If you owe, if you're working on student debt, you owe on that, get a couple of jobs this summer. Don't blow it off. Don't waste this precious, precious time. And enjoy these years in college. Even all the pressure of your education. You're keeping up with good grades. You're trying to handle your debt. All of these things. I want you to do all you can to start now saving and giving. Take as little debt as you possibly can manage. Pay it off as fast as you can. And I can't wait for us to meet again so that you can learn more. Thank you so much.